What is up, everybody? Wow, what a draft. I want to thank everybody that tuned in for the live streams. My goodness, your support was just overwhelming. I'm so thankful to have the best fans in the world. And now it is time to get into our divisional draft grade breakdowns, going pick by pick, team by team. Going to be giving individual grades for each pick, as well as a final grade for each draft. Always one of the most fun exercises of the year, going off of my own evaluations, who got the best value, the best scheme fits, all of that stuff, who's planning for the future the best. Let's get into the NFC North. We're going to be cranking out 8 of these videos over the next 48 hours or so. Really putting the pedal to the metal to wrap up draft season here. I'd really appreciate it if you hit that like button, left a comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on my grades of your team's draft. Really helps support the channel. Let's go ahead and start with the Chicago Bears, who I promise you, not every draft is gonna look this good, but that is what makes this draft so special for the Chicago Bears. I genuinely believe, and those of you that follow this channel that have been around for a while, I am very critical on draft day. I'm not like the other draft analysts that are really going to applaud every single pick, but I truly believe that this is a historically great draft class for the Bears. I do not say that lightly. It all started on the first night with the trade up for Justin Fields, an A+ grade right there. This was the first pick the Bears have made at the quarterback spot really since I've been doing this, and well before that. That was kind of a unanimous sigh of relief for the entire Windy City. Not that he's this can't-miss quarterback prospect, but Justin Fields, in a lot of years, despite my criticisms of him, would have still been the number one quarterback in a lot of drafts. He is a hell of a quarterback prospect. I do think there are aspects of his game when it comes to the first read stuff that everyone seemingly wanted to dismiss on Twitter. I do believe those are legitimate criticisms. You watch some of his worst games of the year, and there's moments where you say he can't do that in the NFL, and that's very much true. But just because it's a weakness doesn't mean it can't be coached out of him. So I do think there's aspects of his game that do need to be brought along, being ripped out of that Ohio State offense that maybe was forcing some of those poor tendencies when you get into the first read stuff. But at the end of the day, this is an A+ pick. There is no doubt about it. You come up, you get your guy. Ryan Pace saves his job and, frankly, gets the entire city of Chicago to take another look at the Bears this year, because as much as I thought Andy Dalton was a decent signing and could keep their season afloat, this, if it hits, you're talking about Super Bowl chances again for the Chicago Bears. And then you go up and get Tevin Jenkins, a true first-round talent, which, by the way, those little numbers in the parentheses, those are my own grades on these players. Tevin Jenkins was my 4th-ranked offensive tackle. I thought he should have gone in the top 20 picks, but it's not just the value that they got here. After the Justin Fields pick, you looked at the roster, and all of a sudden, all right, receivers no longer a need because Allen Robinson's going to be just fine. He likes the city of Chicago. He just wants a quarterback that'll throw him the football, and hopefully he can get a contract extension here. But I don't think Allen Robinson's going anywhere. Maybe Anthony Miller's going to be on his way out, but they address that later, a pick we'll talk about. But that right tackle position, gaping hole. Not just that, they want to run the ball still. They've got Montgomery in there, and Tevin Jenkins is an absolute freaking mauler. This dude is one of the most fun tackles to watch. He is refined as a pass protector. They gave up some picks. They gave up, some meat in the middle of their draft, but they more than made up for it later, that we'll get into. The trade up for Tevin Jenkins, even if you didn't have Justin Fields here, that alone was a great move to get him for this team. And then you go all the way down to the 5th round. Larry Borom is a sleeper in this class. Really good athlete, good get-off. To me, it's his upper body that he really struggles with. His kick slide technique is fine. His get-off in the run game is fine. If he can shift some weight into his upper body, he really has starter potential. They listed him at guard. He played tackle at Missouri. He can do a little bit of both. I think he could be a long-term answer at left tackle to Charles Leno if they develop him well. And he also might compete day one at guard. Right guard is a question mark for them. But I do question his ability to kind of use his hands and generate push both in the run game, but also that grip strength and pass protection. So some work to do there with Larry Borom, but he was one of my potential sleepers at that offensive line spot on day 3. And then you get Khalil Herbert He is not unlike Aaron Jones. Bears fans will like to hear that. They've seen a lot of Aaron Jones coming out of college, I will say. Keep in mind, Aaron Jones was a 5th, 6th round pick, but has good vision, can hit the home run a little bit, more contact balance than you'd expect for kind of a speedy guy like that, can kind of turn the edge, and he'll be a nice complement to David Montgomery, kind of a good 1-2 thunder and lightning approach a little bit. Not that he's a true speedster, but he's a little more in that direction of a running back. And then Daz Newsome, basically a 7th rounder. Like, what the heck? Daz Newsome is right there with these, long lists over the last decade of day one starting slot receivers. He's nothing more, but he's nothing less. He's a creative route runner in the slot. He's got good hands. He's got run after catch ability. Was a really productive player at UNC and a playmaker with the ball in his hands. So just a 4th receiver, a 5th receiver, depending on if you're like me and you still believe that Riley Ridley can play football if he gets a chance. Excited to see him get a quarterback, by the way, but that's not to do with this draft. But Daz Newsome's just too good a value to pass up. And then you take Thomas Graham, basically, again, a 7th round pick here. This was just overkill for this draft. It was already an A+ at this point. But Thomas Graham, I have a 3rd to a 4th round grade on him. To put this in perspective, how much I like Thomas Graham, the gap between him and Elijah Molden, slot corner out of Washington, who was a total draft darling for people. Yes, I liked Molden better, but it was not this massive gap. Give me Thomas Graham in the 6th round every day of the week, and he could very well be starting there in the slot over Buster Screen on day 1. He was one of the standout stars of the Senior Bowl with his man coverage ability, and he showed even more with his zone ability at Oregon as well. That's an A+ pick. We've seen a lot of slot corners go as 6th, 7th round picks, undrafted free agents. I think Thomas Graham's going to be a really good starting slot corner in the NFL, and they got him in the 6th round. Then you take Kyrus Tonga out of BYU, have a 6th round of priority free agent grade, so end of the 7th round, kind of right on the dot for him. He's just kind of a home wrecker type of defensive lineman. Kind of put him in a gap, let him blow it up, and he plays with some power, but he needs to be coached up, which he's in a position where he's not going to start for a while here. They have a deep defensive line. But definitely a scheme fit and a position that they could have used a developmental piece. So overall, this is an A+ draft. I will not be giving out many A+. This might be the only one. So I am starting this with potentially the best draft in the entire NFL this year. The Chicago Bears. Ryan Pace has returned after looking like a fire candidate on the hot seat after the Mitch Trubisky, Nick Foles debacle. But welcome back, Ryan Pace. I think he bought himself at least the extension of Justin Fields' rookie contract here for the Bears. Then we have the Detroit Lions, quite possibly the most fun draft that we got to witness this weekend. Dan Campbell came out and said, we're going to bite some kneecaps this year. He basically announced, he literally announced, we are going to come out, have a tough-minded football team. We are looking for guys that want to be here, that want to establish a tone and play a physical, old-school style of football. And seriously, down the board, they found value, which I have to credit Brad Holmes for helping Dan Campbell, who isn't like some amazing scouting GM type of background. Brad Holmes, I think, did an electric job with this draft, despite going with such a physically minded football team. So they end up with Penei Sewell. You don't really need to evaluate this. I mean, seriously, this was a total steal at the 7th pick, which is saying something. I was stunned to see both Cincinnati and Miami pass up on him. I think Detroit actually wanted to trade down, but with Sewell there, it was too good to be true. And he is the perfect kneecap-biting, physical-minded football player, one of the most mauling, elite run-blocking tackle prospects you'll ever seen. And he's going to get developed as a pass blocker here as well. I can't imagine a better way for the Lions to start this new regime. But then you get Levi Onwuzurike. Just to save some time, I'm just going to say, look up his quote from his presser after he got drafted. Take a second, look it up. It's exactly what Dan Campbell wanted to hear. Drop some F-bombs, said, I just want to light dudes up. I enjoy dominating offensive linemen. And he brings some athleticism, some upsides to that defensive line. And then you add Lee McNeil. I compare him to Falarenzu Fadukasi, who is an underrated defensive tackle for the New York Jets. Again, you're sticking with these physical dudes. And Lee McNeil is quite possibly the best run-defending defensive tackles in this entire class. And he has upside as a pass rusher. He's lost some weight since playing nose tackle at 340 pounds at NC State. He has some hidden upside in there as well. So I love the tone-setting mentality that they're going for in this first 3 rounds, day 1, day 2. And then you take a Fetu Melifonwu. I guess if there was a cornerback that was going to fit the mindset here, it was going to be him. I will toot my own horn on him. People loved Fetu Melifonwu in the first or second round. I said, no freaking way. This guy's stiff as nails. He is not going to be a dominant cover player day 1 in the NFL. He has a lot of work to do. And frankly, I think he needed to go into a cover 3 press system. We don't fully know what Detroit's defense is going to look like, but I do know that Aaron Glenn is one of the best defensive backs coach in the NFL, and I'm excited to see him work with the athlete that is Fetu Melifonwu, who can maybe get him to a point where he's more comfortable in man coverage, because his athletic upside is outstanding, and they don't need to start him right away. They've got some guys in place, so a really nice developmental piece there. And 3rd, 4th round grade on a Fetu Melifonwu. Some people were surprised to see him slip. I certainly was not. That's about the comfort zone for a Fetu Melifonwu, so B+ pick there. And then Amon-Ra St. Brown. Again, if you're going to take a receiver, who typically these guys, they don't love to run block. They're not always the most physical-minded players. Amon-Ra St. Brown fits the mold. He's not unlike Juju Smith-Schuster coming out of USC, not an elite speed guy, not a true deep threat. But a guy that's going to play physical. He separates in the short to intermediate game. They've got some deep threats in there. Guys like Tyrell Williams and Quentin Cephas. Amon-Ra St. Brown is a great complement to those players and excellent value in the 4th round. I did have a 3rd round grade on him. Again, I will toot my own horn. I was not a huge Amon-Ra St. Brown fan, but in the 4th round, that's still excellent value there. And then Derek Barnes right after him. A little bit earlier than, I won't even say that. I had a 4th to a 5th round grade on him. It's just not an A pick for me, because I do, again, these grades look really good off the bat, but I do want to save those A grades for like either incredible values or steals or players that I think will be superstars for those teams. I think Derek Barnes was an excellent pick. I think as you see these videos go on, you'll see that a B+ grade is very nice, very generous for me, even though these first few drafts were really special. And then Jamar Jefferson out of Oregon State, 4th, 5th round running back. I compared him to Jamal Williams. That was my literal comp on the draft guide. Oregon State fans and Jamar Jefferson fans were pissed that I left him off my top 10 running backs list, and were stunned to see him available in the 7th round. Well, I don't love the upside with this player, but he is a guy like Jamal Williams who runs with that physical, hard-nosed, blue-collar mindset, and he's going to be their RB3. I can imagine that they're going to be shopping Kerryon Johnson, who's had a hard time staying healthy after they've kind of reloaded that running back room. But yeah, awesome draft for the Detroit Lions. We're going to give this one an A. And let's move on to the Green Bay Packers. And this is where you'll start to see where that criticism starts to stick in. A team that was maybe doing a little more reaching than these last couple teams. And it's going to start with the Eric Stokes pick. Not a terrible pick, but to pass up on an Asante Samuel, to me is pretty hard pill to swallow for the Green Bay Packers, who Samuel's a better athlete. He's a better scheme fit, quite honestly. Samuel has elite zone instincts, and this is a defense that's trying to replicate what the Rams did last year. Well, Darius Williams, I keep saying Asante Samuel is Darius Williams on steroids, but Eric Stokes is a second-round player. He's incredibly stiff. He's very similar as a prospect to Trey Waynes, but, with Stokes, he's not a bad cornerback prospect. He could turn into a hell of a football player, mind you. But to me, he's not a day one impact. I have a hard time seeing him beating out Kevin King, to be completely honest, which is not good news for Packers fans. I don't think Kevin King alone could, cover my grandma on a rainy day with an umbrella. But it's just going to be tough, given the nature of the position, for Eric Stokes to beat him out on the outside, just the way these NFL teams think. So I like his upside, but again, you're not getting that day one impact that Aaron Rodgers and Packers fans are thirsting for. He's fine. It's not a terrible pick, but to me, it was early to draft this player, and they passed up on better cornerback prospects. And then it gets way worse in the second round with the Josh Myers selection. To me, this was, Brian Gutekunst handing the controller to a preschooler. To draft Josh Myers over Creed Humphrey, I have yet to hear a explanation for how this is justified. He does nothing better than Creed Humphrey, and his athletic upside is lower. So all I hear from Ohio State fans is, well, I trust the Packers to develop an offensive lineman. Great, I agree, they do a good job of it. But A, if you trust that, they drafted 3 guys last year to play this interior offensive line spot. Are you not trusting them to develop those guys? And if you're trusting them to develop the player in the second round, why would you not go with a Quinn Miners who actually has elite physical upside instead of a slower, undersized Josh Myers? It just makes no sense to me. This was one of the worst picks, honestly, of the entire draft, but definitely of day 2. So that one gets a D+ for me. Really inexcusable. We'll see if he works out. I'm sure he'll be a decent starter for them. But the Chiefs took Creed Humphrey with the next pick, and I'm sure they were just laughing their asses off in Kansas City when they saw Josh Myers drafted ahead of Creed Humphrey, just as I was. But then they do take Amari Rodgers in the 3rd round. Now, this is a very simple pick, drafting a starting caliber slot receiver in the 3rd round. It shouldn't be applauded as much as it is here. This is about 3 years too late for Green Bay. I don't think they've had a receiver under 6 feet tall drafted here since, I don't know. I don't know what Brian Gutekunst's thing is, why he hates slot receivers so much, but finally adjusting there. They come up to get him. He was my 12th wide receiver with a 3rd round grade. I think he is going to make a very nice impact if Aaron Rodgers decides to return here. But then this next pick is going to get an F. Royce Newman, priority free agent grade, not a great athlete. He, to me, is a worse prospect than all 3 players that this team took in the 6th round last year. Genuinely don't see what they see in him. His tape was not good. His grading profile was not good. His workout was not good. And he was absolutely embarrassed at the Senior Bowl. So I'm genuinely confused what they see in him. Maybe they make me wrong here, but I am going to stand in my own evaluations and give this one an F. And then they finally started to turn some things around on day 3, like late in day 3, after starting it off with just a terrible pick in Royce Newman, in my opinion. Tadarius Slayton was fine. He's a run-defending defensive tackle, could be a role player. Cole Van Lanen, to me, a better prospect than Royce Newman. Both those guys offer some kind of tackle guard flexibility, but Van Lanen to me fits the scheme better and was just a better player with more athletic upside. They got him in the 6th round, so kind of head-scratching with the Royce Newman thing there. But I guess they're throwing darts at O-line. Then they take Isaiah McDuffie, one of my sleeper players. Really like this pick in the 6th round. I had a 4th round grade on him, and I think he's going to dominate on special teams. It's just a special teams unit that's been abysmal, is putting it nicely for Green Bay. They get some athleticism and a guy that's a really good tackler, but I actually think he has developmental upside at linebacker as well, and they kind of have an underrated group of young linebackers there. I thought linebacker being a need for them was definitely true, but a little bit overstated, as they were often mocked linebacker in the 1st round. And then Kylan Hill in the 7th round. This is exactly why you don't pay Aaron Jones. Kylan Hill is a better prospect coming out than Aaron Jones was. Now, Aaron Jones is a great running back. He's not an elite running back. And if you took Kylan Hill and paired him with A.J. Dillon and Kylan Hill's ability in the receiving game, which is awesome, I'm going to be honest, man, Packers fans are going to hate me for this, but that combination could get you 90, 95% of what you get in Aaron Jones, and then you use that money to bring Corey Linsley back instead of wasting a 2nd round pick on Josh Myers, in my opinion. This whole offseason's just been a complete train wreck for the Green Bay Packers. They're probably the only team in the NFL that legitimately got worse this offseason, which is pretty much a disgrace. I can't blame Aaron Rodgers for basically saying, look, man, I'm sick of mediocrity. You stuck me with Mike McCarthy for a decade, and now you're going to stick me with this Brian Gutekunst guy that has no clue what he's doing. I don't want to come back, man. I'm 38. My body's been through hell. I've put my literal life on the line with the concussions I've got here. I'll retire if I have to. So we'll see if Aaron Rodgers comes back. I get his frustration. I don't love the way he's handling the situation, which really stole a lot of headlines on draft day. Really kind of a petty move by him, I'll be honest. And if I was a Packers teammate, I'd be really pissed. But I also, at the same time, I can't blame him. I mean, it's just another mediocre draft for the Packers. This one's going to get a C. The bar was extremely low for them, and they met that extremely low bar. They did okay. They actually addressed needs this year, but they reached pretty much down the board until the 6th round. Then the Minnesota Vikings, Another awesome draft class for the Vikings after getting the pick of the year last year in Justin Jefferson. They very well may have done it again, getting Christian Darrisaw after trading down from 14. I thought they were going to run that pick up to the podium at 14. They don't. They trade down. I thought it would have been a great pick at 14. He would have got an A+ then, but he's going to get an A+ at 23 after you move down. What an unbelievable execution by the Minnesota Vikings. And with the extra pick that they acquired, they use it to get some upside at quarterback. So this is a free dart throw at the quarterback position. I'm not the biggest Kellen Mond fan, but I can't picture a much better spot for him. This scheme that now has Justin Jefferson. They have an offensive line that's been upgraded with Darrisaw and Wyatt Davis. Darrisaw, by the way, an unreal scheme fit in this wide zone offense with his ability to get up on the move. So a massive upgrade at left tackle to what you had in Riley Reiff. We'll just talk about Wyatt Davis real quick. Excellent value in the third round. I didn't think Wyatt Davis was a top 50 player like many people did, so I wasn't stunned to see him in the third round. But in the third round, he's a great value and a scheme fit with his athleticism and his run blocking ability. And my God, they actually got this offensive line. They have 5 quality starters across the board, at least young players that project that way. We'll see about Ezra Cleveland. But yeah, you put Kellen Mond behind that offensive line with the scheme that I love, with a young coordinator in Kubiak's son, with Justin Jefferson, Adam Thielen. They added some good receivers here, if you include them adding one of the best undrafted free agent pickups, by the way, in Blake Prohl, who reminds me a ton of a young Adam Thielen. But yeah, Kellen Mond's in a great position here. He can develop for 2 years behind Kirk Cousins while that contract expires, and you're going to be in a position where you can see enough of him in practice and preseason, make that decision on, do we let Kirk go, and in 2-3 years, do you give Kellen Mond the reins with this young offense? There is a chance that works out, and that chance is able to be taken for free because of the trade down. Unbelievable execution. And they got Chaz Surratt in there too, a little bit earlier than I would have taken him, so I'll stick to my evaluation there, but I still think he's going to be coached up and be a great Viking there. A guy that, could be a nice running mate with Eric Kendricks and a number 2 linebacker. So still a good pick, even though I'm not glowing about Chaz Surratt. I'm maybe a little bit lower on him than others. But then you get into kind of this 4th round territory. Yes, Patrick Jones was a 3rd round pick, but this was interesting. You end up with Patrick Jones and Janarius Robinson, who individually I'd give these guys B grades, but the collection of these 2 players makes a ton of sense. If there was any questions, which there never really should have been, but that said, people kept mocking the Vikings' edge in the 1st round, and how many times did I say, Mike Zimmer ain't taking no edge in the 1st round? He thinks he can take a 6'5", 260-pound, long-arm, explosive edge rusher and develop him. He did it with DJ Wanham. They're going for that ever so commonly spoken of Danielle Hunter comp, and that's kind of what they're doing here. Not kind of, that is literally what they're doing here. Patrick Jones, Janarius Robinson fit that mold. So you take those 2, you have DJ Wanham, who was a similar dart throw last year, and you say, let's hope at least one of these guys sticks. You make a competition there, the right scheme fit, the right coach. The combination of those picks, I think, is an A. I don't know which one could work out. I like Wanham as well, but the strategy there is awesome execution. And then you take Kane and Wangu. Now, I can't grade this too highly, but it's a fascinating pick. I did have a 6 to a priority free agent grade on him. He was on nobody's radar until his pro day, where he had an all-time great running back testing day. Kind of reminds me of Mike Boone, actually, was a comparison I had on the draft board for Kane and Wangu. So Vikings fans will be familiar with that, but no vision. The guy has no idea where he's going, but I will say this system is a spectacular fit for him, and my upside comparison for him is Raheem Mostert, who took some time but finally got in a system just like they have here in Minnesota, and he took off. So if he turns into Raheem Mostert, nobody's really going to be surprised, because the dude's one of the freakiest running backs to come out since Saquon Barkley, just not nearly the prospect. But then they take Cameron Bynum, who reminded me a lot of Xavier Rhodes, actually, which is high praise. Super smart player, physical guy. They actually announced him as a safety, so I could see a transition to that position because they have some young corners there. But I think he's just going to be a nice, versatile depth piece. I don't see him as a starter unless something clicks for him at safety. But they have some legal question marks going on with Mike Hughes there. And I think Cameron Bynum can step in and play a variety of coverages in this Zimmer defense. They take Ihmir Smith-Marsette in the 5th round. That's about when I could have started to be okay with this. I thought he was one of the more overhyped prospects in this draft. I actually spent some time detailing that I think Blake Prohl profiles similarly to Ihmir Smith-Marsette, but is a much better football player. Ironically, they get Blake Prohl as an undrafted free agent pickup. So if you flip those guys and you put Blake Prohl here, that's an A pick for me. And Ihmir Smith-Marsette is a priority free agent pickup would be great. So just flip those in my mind, and it's all good. That would be an A. But I don't see Ihmir Smith-Marsette as a particularly good prospect. That's just my opinion. Some people really liked him. He is a good scheme fit, and he's going to have an opportunity to develop here. Then Zach Davidson, freak athlete, 6'7" tight end. He's going to give you the red zone threat that you had in Kyle Rudolph. But beyond that, if you can develop his blocking, he could be an alpha tight end here, almost in the same light as a George Kittle. Now, obviously a long way to go there, but athletically speaking, he's got that type of a upside. It's got to be careful with that kind of stuff, but it's kind of true. And then Jalen Twyman in the 6th round is just really good value to pass up. They signed those run-stuffing defensive tackles here, but they don't have anyone that can rotate in there on 3rd down and be a good interior rusher. And Jalen Twyman was a good prospect for that at Pittsburgh. Really disappointing pro day, but played with more quickness and get-off than he showed. He's one of the more polished pass rushers from the interior in this class. So I don't think he's ever going to be a superstar, but I like the fit considering the defensive tackles that they have here and their lack of pass rush ability. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see some Jalen Twyman as a rookie, which is pretty good for a 6th round pick. So I'm actually going to have 2 A+ grades in the NFC North. I don't know if we're going to have another A+ grade in the entire draft as we go, but we will find out. What a draft for the NFC North outside of the Green Bay Packers. I really think that the gap was closed here on draft day. You never want to overreact to the draft, but when the Vikings and Bears were already kind of breathing down the Packers' neck, I think you look at these drafts and say, wow, the Vikings and Bears got a lot better, and I cannot say the same about the Green Bay Packers. I appreciate everybody for watching the first draft grades video. Please do hit that like button. Would love it if we could get to 1,000 likes before we drop the next one. But we're going to move on to the AFC North next, and we'll see you guys for that one. Peace out.